Yes,
Awesome.
sir.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for being here this afternoon I guess we're not in afternoon yet. We haven't even hit lunchtime. But thank you guys for being here and joining us to learn a little bit more about Gear Up, what we do, how we support our schools, our students, and our families. When we started this project or thinking about this in 2018 and thinking about what impact could we have in Metro Nashville Public Schools. As many of you are aware, we've had previous Gear Up grants in the past, and they were a different model to kind of how we built out this project. But the whole goal of Gear Up is to create a college-going culture within our schools, providing a system of support. And when we received the grant, one thing I wanted to focus on was developing a team, identifying people that are passionate about this work, that have been impacted by similar programs to Gear Up, whether it's state funded, federally funded, privately funded. A lot of these models exist across our country and have impacted, our staff in numerous ways. We serve 7 schools, and we have 7 wonderful people on the ground making this work happen day in and day out and impacting our students and building those strong relationships so that the work is impactful. If we're not building relationships, it's hard to get students to buy into what we're doing and see the benefits of what we're doing. So we serve Antioch High School, which Patrice Whitaker is housed there all day, every day. Cane Ridge, Amanda Darty, Gear Up specialist, serves Cane Ridge. Shamika Bailey serves Glencliff High School. April Gung is at Maplewood. Deborah Osborne, who you'll be hearing from here in a little bit, serves Overton. Patrice Hill is at Pearl Cone, and Mark Fativia-Hoke is at Stratford. The support hub team through Gear Up is myself. We just brought Matthew Humphrey to the team as our data document management analyst. He's replacing the wonderful Letitia. And then we got Harold Burdett, grant analyst, and also Gear Up alumni. So a little bit of history around Gear Up. Gear Up stands for Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. It's a federally funded college access grant program that was established in 1998 under the Clinton administration. It comes from the same funding, if you're familiar with TRIO programs, Educational Talent Search, Upward Bound, Student Support Services, the Ronald E. McNair program. It's all in that same funding source where those Student Support Services programs come out of. The purpose of Gear Up is to increase the number of low-income and first-generation students who are prepared to enroll and succeed in college. And as you know, many of our schools have this population within their buildings. Our grant objectives are on an annual basis are to increase the academic performance of our students, increase their rate of high school graduation and enrollment in post-secondary education, and increase Gear Up students and their families' knowledge of the process and their options, their preparation, and their financing. And then we have 3 absolute priorities are to expand innovative paths to recognize credentials aligned with in-demand industries. We work closely with our Academy's office, Jennifer Bell and her team, to see what their needs are, to expand upon their needs, and to support whatever they've got going on. Support student mastery of key prerequisites to ensure success in all STEM fields, including computer science. We have a few partners that help us navigate this process, and we'll talk about that here shortly. And then fostering knowledge and promoting the development of skills that prepare students to be informed, thoughtful, and productive individuals and citizens through financial literacy. How do we approach the work? So as I mentioned, we've had previous Gear Up grants in the past. Those worked on a cohort model of a specific class. So when we were working with them, it was the class of 2018. We started with them in 7th grade, but then we also worked with the current senior class on an annual basis. So as we were growing with that cohort group of students, we were also focused on that senior group, making sure that they were completing all the milestones everything that they needed to do to head into college after they graduated or career of their choice. When we created this, we thought when we created our model of Gear Up, we looked at focusing on the class of 2024 and the class of 2025. So you'll see here, we're going into year 4, which is 9th and 10th grade students. Year 5 will serve 10th and 11th, and so on until these students graduate, and will support that class of 2024 in their first year of college. Everything we do is based off the 5A framework that we developed. When our staff plans, when they work with our schools, everything must connect to one of these 5As in order for us to fund it, support it, identify an organization to come in and provide services. And those are achievement, aspiration, awareness, affiliation, and actualization. On an annual basis, we develop what we call the implementation guide. This is kind of our Bible that we provide to schools. So principals, assistant principals, teachers, academy coaches can refer to it and say, what does Gear Up support? How do they support it? What's allowable? What's unallowable? Who our partners are, et cetera. And we can provide that. I think Harold's going to drop that into the chat if anybody wants to refer to it or look at it later on. But it's basically our Bible on how the grant functions and what is allowable for us to do. Within that implementation guide, we lay out all the services that we provide to the school on an annual basis. Now, we know some schools have some of these things covered. They utilize Title I funds to make those things happen, and that's when we come in and enhance those services, build upon them, provide additional resources, whatever they need. I'm not going to go through all of these for you guys because of time, but again, our goal is to make sure students, families, or support systems have the information that they need, so when their child or their loved one graduates, there's a plan in place. And a lot of those things are just exposing students to different opportunities, whether in the career workforce or for college visits, providing them the support so that they are successful, so academic tutoring, providing exposure to ACT or SAT prep so that they are familiar when it does count to come down to taking that exam. They are familiar, they're not nervous, they've seen it, they've done it, and they know what to expect. And then we do a lot of student and family events so that they are aware of the process, how to fund the process, how to support their students through that process, because what we learned in the past was a lot of parents didn't know what they needed to do. And so some parents hadn't filed taxes in 2 or 3 years. And so we educate them through that process to make sure that they're on top of things. So when it comes time for their student to identify where they want to go, everything is in place. When we wrote the grant, we identified partnerships, and we identified 4 higher ed institutions that provide an array of different types of services to us. So Belmont University was a natural fit with the Bridges to Belmont scholarship, and building that mentoring program with current Belmont scholars coming down and supporting our current high school students through that process. How to prepare early, what Belmont is all about. So we're collaborating heavily with Belmont on that. Lipscomb comes in and does a lot of PD for us. So right now they are working with our math teachers at all of our sites, providing virtual professional development opportunities. In the past, they have a college access program that is about a 1-year program where individuals can go through and learn all about the college access profession and how to best support students. So we paid for a lot of counselors and teachers to go through that process. Nashville State Community College, we actually employ somebody at Nashville State to work closely with our students and families. It's going to grow over time. So right now they do a lot of just informational sessions for students, but as our students become juniors and seniors, it's going to be heavy on the dual enrollment process and helping families and students navigate that. They also host us, all these higher ed institutions host us for college visits, college experiences, information nights, etc. Basically, they're kind of there for us if we need them. TCAT Nashville basically said, anything you want, just let us know. We'll try to support you in any effort that you have. Then we identified some community-based organizations, some who do this work already, and so it allowed us, by getting this grant, to ramp up their services, provide additional individual support to students. Conexión Américas, we hired somebody there that works with our Latino population. And so they're taking students and families on college visits on the weekend and doing them in Spanish. They're hosting Spanish information nights for our students, clubs after school, you name it. Martha O'Brien Center, they have a couple of college zones or top floor, they're all differently named, but they provide after school academic support and enrichment for students. So, we work closely with them. Nashville Tech Council addresses those STEM opportunities for our students. Oasis Center, if you're familiar with them, we kind of get all the services that they provide. We work closely with Oasis College Connection and have employed 2 people there to work closely with our students at all of our sites. So they are at the beck and call of our team. They just call upon them and ask for additional support, and so all hands are on deck. For example, we have a staff member who's out on FMLA currently, and so we have moved one of those Oasis staff members into Glencliff full-time until that individual returns. We are not all about college. We are about careers as well, and so identifying opportunities and internships for our students, we partner with Opportunity Now and help navigate our students through that application process and identifying opportunities over the summer. Project Lit focuses on our literacy efforts to increase literacy amongst all of our students. And so working closely with Project Lit to identify culturally relevant texts that our students can get into and relate to and foster that love of reading again, we know will impact all academic levels. Southern Word comes in and does slam poetry with our students. Residency workshops, gets them excited about reading, writing, and presentations. They also focus on a lot of SEL efforts with our students and help them navigate that process through writing. TCASN, Tennessee College Access and Success Network, they're nationally known for their efforts in the college access world. And so we rely heavily on them as somebody to refer to, talk to, advise. Every year they write the Bridge to Completion report, which is what our grant application was based off of. And so they host a leadership institute every year for our principals and leaders in our buildings to go through that report, talk about their recommendations, and then link Gear Up's work to all of that. Tennessee Higher Education Commission, they host the Gear Up Tennessee grant. They've done that for years, so they're an advisory role for our staff, for myself and Harold and Matthew. So they're really the gurus of Gear Up, so we tap into them sometimes when we have some high-level questions. TSAC, Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation, they hold all of the financial aid at the state level for our students. So we were working closely with them to come in and give financial aid presentations to our students, all those high-level financial aid needs. And then the University of Kansas Center for Education Opportunity Programs is our third-party evaluator. So they crunch all the data at the end of the year. They provide us updates throughout the year to see where our efforts are being impacted, where we are lacking services, and how we need to adapt and change those focuses. And I will pass it on to Deborah.
Morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about what our role looks like on the ground. Obviously, we are spread across very different school environments. And so the first thing that we wanted to do is that we always make sure that we're integrating into the culture of our different schools. So my school is really large, and so the way that I interact with students, the way that I interact with staff might look really different than some of our much smaller schools. But I think what's most important is that we're aligning with the school improvement goals and the stated goals of our admin, of our teachers, of our parents, and of our students. We want to make sure that we are crafting our programs so that they are reaching the goals of our students, our families. And sometimes that looks different depending on our various schools. We also want to make sure that we're meeting our students where they are, even though the vast majority of our students are coming in from a first generation background. That doesn't mean that they're completely removed from the college and career pipeline. And so we want to validate that their families' experiences with higher ed, their families' experiences in the workforce are all valid forms of knowledge. And we want to build upon those things. We also work really hard to make sure that we're understanding the intersection of our students' identities and the world of higher education. The vast majority of our students are Black and Brown, and the world of higher education is not. And so we want to help them translate their experiences, help them understand what it means to integrate in a space that was not created with you and your identity in mind. And how can you excel in those spaces while also maintaining an understanding of who you are, your values, and what you want to be doing in the future. And then we work really hard to understand our students' lived experience and support them and their families' long-term goals, which might look really different than the goals that we might have for ourselves and the goals that we think we might impose on other people. Our students and their families know what's best for them, and we want to make sure that we are not leading them away from something that doesn't feel culturally relevant, not leading them away from something that doesn't feel important to them and their families, but instead giving them access to all of the knowledge that they need to make the best choice for them and their families. And we spend a lot of time in the knowledge building section. So we want to make sure that our students have the basic college knowledge, the basic career knowledge, so that they can truly make a choice and not feel as though a choice is imposed upon them. But we want them to do that. And we do that through direct instruction. So standing up in front of classes and leading classes that way. We do smaller workshops. And there are times where we do activities that help them get an understanding of what that lived experience might look like. Can you go to the next slide, please?
It's not letting me change here. Hold on.
That's okay.
There we go. There we go.
So here are some examples of things that we've done. These are examples from all of our different schools. Up here at the top, you'll see Overton and Maplewood. Down at the bottom, you'll see Cane Ridge and Pearl Cone. On the next page, there's ones from Stratford, Antioch, um, and Glencliff. Part of what we do is we adapt our services to the size and the needs of our schools. And so and we also work year round. So there were times where we were working during Promising Scholars. We wanted to make sure that the content was really engaging because students were opting in to be there. And we wanted to draw them in so that during the school year, when they saw us, they would want to participate in our content. During the school year, we might focus a little bit more on getting them in front of admissions representatives so that they can hear directly from them what it takes to get from where they are as freshmen and sophomores to where they want to be as seniors and graduates. Um, they'll also be able to participate in things like virtual job shadow simulations where they can get more information on the specifics of specific jobs that they're interested in the future. Because again, we want them to be able to see what are the steps that need to be taking now, what's the information that they need to be learning now, what are the skills that they need to be developing now so that they can get from point A to point B. Um, I think we all know that our freshmen and our sophomores are maybe not the best at being able to understand cause and effect of behaviors, cause and effect of the choices that they are currently making. And so that's also part of our work. It's helping to lay out for our students, if I do this, then here are my choices in the future. Because they're so early in their high school career, we want to make sure that we're not restricting any of the choices that they might be having in the future. And so that's a lot of our work as well. And we do that through individual meetings with students, small groups, and large group presentations.
I just want to jump in right quick because everybody's probably seeing this table full of pizza. I know most federal programs or federal funds are not allowed to purchase food or pizza or incentives. That's one way we get our students to engage and interact is by incentivizing certain programming. So you'll see that we sometimes buy pizza. Sometimes we're buying shirts for our students to kick off the year and get them excited about the program. We just use a different a wide variety of incentives to get students to engage. All right, Harold.
Hey everybody, my name is Harold Burdett. I'm going to be talking about our partnership with the University of Kansas. University of Kansas has a research department that serves as our evaluator of our grant. Pretty recently, they provided a evaluation of year 3 of our grant, which is the school year 2020 to 2021. So the last school year, a lot of times I just in passing refer to this year as a pandemic year. So if I say that, you all know what I mean. I totally understand that we're not out of a pandemic year yet, but I know y'all will show me that grace. Like I said, they're from the University of Kansas. They're responsible for assessing the work that we do as compared to what we've projected that we would do in our grant proposal for the Gear Up grant. So what I'm going to do today is give you guys a sky view look at what some of those major data points were from the evaluation. But I want to make sure y'all know I'm going to make the evaluation available to everybody so you can all see what was shared, and I'm not cherry picking data or anything like that. I'm just going to show y'all what it is. Some of it won't surprise you because you know, it's a pandemic school year. A lot of the trends that we saw were also recognized on a national level. It's not unique to MMPS. There won't be a lot of surprises here, especially if you're paying attention to what were some of the other trends in MMPS last year. You know, it'll all come together and make sense. But on the screen, you're going to see some of the themes that I'm going to cover about the evaluation section of this presentation. And once again, just to encourage everybody to look at that evaluation once we make that available in the chat, just because it covers so much more than what I'm going to go into here, including some survey data that was collected from teachers and staff about what it was like to work during a pandemic year and in remote learning and a hybrid approach and all that. There's also some survey observations from students about what it was like to learn in a pandemic year and sort of what they lost other than learning. Pretty compelling stuff. So like I said, I would definitely encourage y'all to check that out. And then just one last reminder, I don't think we've said this yet, but we actually haven't had one full school year of regular programming. I mean, our year 1 started on October 1st, 2018. That was the year that that we hired staff. Staff wasn't hired until March 2019. We had our whole team, so we finished out that year. Our kids were in 6th and 7th grade from 10 different middle schools, and then next year was 2019 to 2020. We all know what happened in 2020 with the tornado and then the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So we've just been on shifting sands, it seems like, from the beginning. But I really am proud of the work that we've done as a team and what our staff has brought to our sites. So with that said, JP, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. Thanks. Last year, and like I said, last school year, year 3, pandemic year, we were able to reach 3,042 students with at least one service. That actually makes up 70% of our Gear Up Nashville cohort students participating in at least one of those services. I just want to point out that student enrollment at the Gear Up sites were actually significantly higher than what we projected them to be. So student enrollment last year it was 16 sites, 9 middle schools and 7 high schools. We projected or funded to be 2,765 students. That's what we were funded for that school year. We actually served just over 3,000. And like I said, we didn't quite get to that 4,300 number, but 70% is a number we feel pretty proud of, I would say, as a team, especially given all the different circumstances from last year. One other data point I want to point out is that 54% of our students received this really special service we refer to as counseling, advising, and academic planning. So we're talking about for most part, it's individual conversations with students or small groups. Students, you know, to talk about like what careers do you see for yourself? What colleges do you see for yourself? How does that all match up? What do you need to do? Let's set some goals. Let's follow up on those goals. let's change our behaviors, those types of things. Those types of conversations most of the time are what we capture in that service. So that's just a really unique thing to point out, considering that, you know, attendance on the whole last year at school was, you know, less than desired. But below that third bullet that I have there, you'll see two different charts that is broken out by 8th grade and 9th grade students, and it has the raw data of what we served at those sites. So you'll see, like I said, that college planning conversation is the top dog for both charts. On 8th grade, rigorous academic curriculum came in second place. I would say that's mostly the Southern Word partnership that we have. They were able to adapt their poetry residency services to online format pretty seamlessly. And that was a really needed service for all our sites. But our middle school students, or middle schools, really took advantage of that partnership a lot. On the high school side of things, second place was job site visits and shadowing. Obviously, we did not bus kids to employer sites to see how people do the work, but we did capture that in a different way. And that's through a virtual means, of course, a platform that either JP or Deborah referred to called virtualjobshadow.com. We could do a whole presentation about how we utilize this tool, but essentially, students are assigned an assessment, a career like interest assessment, and they are grouped into the 17 clusters from the Holland Code, if anybody's familiar with that. And then they can explore careers in that code by watching really approachable videos, really dynamic videos, a giant bank of videos, as a matter of fact. A lot of times focused on careers that are so obscure, even the Gear Up staff like myself have never even heard of them. So that's a really cool tool that we love to use. And we were really, honestly, pretty successful getting that out in virtual format in high schools in particular. As we go further down both charts, you'll see some other patterns. One in particular is the lack of tutoring, especially in math and ELA. Part of that is just the fact that there really wasn't structured tutoring already in place in a remote setting at most of our sites. We did see some of that kind of pick up in some places, but the turnout and, you know, butts in chairs, as they say, just really was not what it should have been. And there wasn't a natural way for Gear Up to support that without just totally replacing the funding sources. So that's not something we do. So it was just, that was probably our biggest challenge last year, was finding ways to have tutoring and provide those outside academic interventions. JP, let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so this slide is about the year 3 benchmarks. So these are the benchmarks that we actually wrote into our grant. These are the things that we hoped to do each year. So I'll just quickly read through these, because on the next slide, I'm going to show you what the evaluation showed that we actually did. And again, this is where you're going to see a lot of the alignment with what you already probably know from different presentations about MNPS trends and national trends. But here's what we said this is what we were being measured on. So 10% more students, more Gear Up students passing algebra. Of course, that's a federal definition. When we talk about algebra 1, we're talking about integrated math, right? So that's sort of how that aligned. 10% more Gear Up students will earn proficient English scores. 10% more Gear Up students will earn proficient math scores. There'll be a 5% increase in attendance. There'll be a 90% of students will successfully transition to high school. By the way, they define a successful transition to high school through participation in some kind of orientation transition workshop, or participation in a freshman seminar class, things like that. 40% of families will be engaged in preparing students for college, and 5% more Gear Up students will have a 3.0 GPA or higher. We use the 3.0 benchmark because that's a really important point for a student to reach if they're interested in academic scholarships, Hope Scholarship, even college admission. Like 3.0 is a pretty good goal for most students. Last point is 90% of freshmen will earn 7 credit hours. Yeah, so JP, let's go to the next one. So on that first one, 10% more students passing Algebra 1. We did not meet that goal. We achieved 61%, but we needed 81%. We were successful in seeing those students earn proficiency in English and math by gainings of 10%. We were not successful in increasing attendance by 5%. Shocker. 90% of students successfully transitioning to high school. We didn't see that either. We only had 49%. On the 40% of families engaged, we only saw 13%. With the 5% more to a GPA of higher, GPA of 3.0 or higher, we saw 16%, but we needed 29%. And then on the last one, 90% of students to earn 7 credit hours, 43% achieved. So like I said, that's going to probably align with what you've already seen data trend-wise in MMPS and some of the national data. Just looking back at my notes real quick. Okay, I think we're ready to go to the next slide. Oh yeah, this slide is actually, it's just a screenshot right from page 9 of our evaluation. So if that's an easier way to interpret the data that I just put up there, that's in the evaluation for you. Like I said, pretty sure it's on page 9. Should have made a note. JP, let's go to the next one. So that was last year. Moving ahead, we're going to see a lot of the same benchmark indicators. So year 4 is this year. So here's a list of the things that we're going to be measured on. A lot of them are the same, and there are some new ones. So again, you're going to have 10% more pass algebra, 10% more get proficient English, proficient math, a 5% increase in attendance. Here's a new one, 90% of sophomores will have at least 7 credit hours. Of course, it's not really new because the first year 3 was for 7 credit hours. 80% of students will report confidence in ability to pursue college and career goals. That's going to be measured through some survey data that University of Kansas has put together for us. 90% of students will report that they expect to obtain a post-secondary credential. That's going to come from that same survey. 90% of students will successfully transition to high school. That remains from the last year. 40% of families engaged remains from last year. 5% more gains in 3.0 or higher GPA from last year. 90% of freshmen will earn 7 credit hours, 85%, yada, yada. Y'all get it. So that's what we're being measured on this year. And that's what I have about that slide, JP. So moving forward, there were 4 like really big takeaways about the work that we did in year 3. They made some suggestions for us, and I'm just going to talk through each point, and then we'll be close to wrapping it up. So here on this slide, hang tight just a second here. Move on notes down here. Okay, so this first recommendation is about something I alluded to earlier, and that's the need to support with tutoring and academic interventions. Deborah did a great job earlier talking about the different cultures and different needs of different schools. Every school is approaching this in their own unique way. So, it could be that we're building a tutoring program from the ground up. It could be that we're adding tutoring on the days that tutoring programs are already happening. It could be that we're adding tutors on the days that tutoring wasn't already happening. It could be, a boot camp on a Saturday, something like that. So there's lots of different ways that we're hoping to increase tutoring exposure and those academic interventions. Just is different side by side. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So this slide, this recommendation is about helping students feel connected with their peers, having the opportunity to collaborate and do team building and those kinds of things. Our our Gear Up partners, the ones that JP listed earlier, a lot of those nonprofit agencies are the absolute best staff people to support us with those endeavors. So we work with them to provide programming that supports those needs. Like I said, or I maybe didn't say this, but this finding came from a high school transition survey that we had the University of Kansas send out for us. Other ways that we're supporting this is through finding clubs and groups and service learning opportunities at our sites. So always looking for opportunities to support students, to help them feel connected, not only with their peers, but with the school community as a whole. Go to the next slide. Oh, this is a really important finding. So at most school years, we would have a big kickoff event at the beginning of the school year to welcome students back from summer, get them excited about being back in school and excited about learning. And we usually just go all out on those activities. But one finding was that we had a lot of students that transferred into our sites that were not familiar with Gear Up, because they just came from a not Gear Up site. So they would hear about Gear Up and not know what we're talking about. So we have decided to put together a campaign to welcome all the new students at our sites with a folder that has lots of information about Gear Up, has information about the school that they're going to, who the important contacts are. It also has some college planning material that we ordered from a company called Woodburn Press. We've also customized and printed some school swag, like some stickers and magnets and things like that. So just basically, a kid enrolls at a Gear Up site. We'll run a report every so often and figure out who the students are. They'll get their schedules, and then the staff person will go and find them with a folder, introduce themselves, maybe give them a tour of the school, maybe make some introductions, those kinds of things. So that just helps the kids feel welcome and know how to find the supports that they need just a little bit better while they're on campus. So really excited about that. We haven't kicked that off yet. We're waiting on just a couple other pieces, but hopefully we'll be ready to roll with this initiative in the next couple of weeks. Next slide. And the last recommendation, this is about teacher professional development services and assessing what teachers know about Gear Up and about college planning. So one main recommendation from the University of Kansas was to put together basically a post survey for the end of the school year to measure their perceptions and how well they were pleased with any training that they received that year. So that's it on the recommendations and on the grant side of things. Right now, I put this little placeholder slide in here, so I would not forget to share with you guys the evaluation report, and I'll do that right now. And here we go. It's going in the chat. It should be easy to find. Just download that file and check it out. Guys, it probably wouldn't take you 15 minutes to get through it. It's really easy to read, and it's really easy on the eyes. So I think you'll learn a lot about Gear Up just from reading that evaluation report. This is going to be the last slide that we've got for you, really. If you got Instagram, why don't you come give us a follow? The main account is right here. It's GearUp_Nashville. And then if you have specific sites that are Gear Up sites, they're all listed here, that are near and dear to you, or you like to pay a little closer attention to, get out your phone and go find one of their accounts right here, and give them a follow, and like their posts and just engage with them. It just makes everything better. If you're interested, you can also go follow NCEP, blanking on the full name of that acronym. It's the National Council, JP, Deborah.
National Council for Community and Educational Partnerships.
Boom, that's why he's in charge. So NCEP is sort of the nonprofit agency that oversees all the Gear Up programming across the country. You can find them on Instagram at Ed Partnerships. So that's a really cool account if you're interested in Gear Up and you're interested in maybe stealing or what we call best practices from other Gear Up entities across the nation. All right. You guys have any questions for me, JP, or Deborah?
I do. This is really great. And I just want to say thank you all for your hard work. And I also appreciate the sharing of data. You know, we are a very data-driven team and organization, and some of that data is hard, as you mentioned, Harold, but that doesn't mean we can look away. So I appreciate you holding that up. I took a snapshot of the Instagram pages. I am not following all those, and we'll get on that. So as a follow up to that, how else can we help as a team? You know, are there school level events or things where you need, and I know, because I know this team and I know how student focused and committed they are. And so if you want to like wax on that about how there are events throughout the year or things that we could help with.
Yeah, our team are always looking for extra hands. And so we always have activities that are happening, and there's only one person on the ground at each site, or teachers are teaching classes when these events are taking place. So we're always looking for extra hands to support in any events. We're also looking for those in our peers that are professionals in certain aspects that we could use to come speak to families or present to students, or provide additional opportunities for our students to learn.
That's awesome. And I'm thinking a structure there maybe for our team would be, if you know of those things coming up, I'm not going to speak for the hospitality committee, but we could include like, here's some Europe events if you want to get involved in those monthly PowerPoints, or happy to update the team, because I think it'd be a great way. I know I would love to come and help out with some of them. So we can talk about how to keep us all in the loop so we can push in and help.
That would be so easy to do, Dr. Randolph. And we can definitely keep that as part of our regular team meeting conversations to find out like what people need extra support with, or it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody on our team. Just, we've got, just as an example, April Gung at Maplewood has an event going on right now. Unfortunately, she had this event scheduled before we moved the event. And she has Western Kentucky University doing a lunch and learn for her today. So we sent our brand new team member, Matt Humphrey, out there to help give out pizza. And you don't have to be gear up to like hand out pizza, right? And engage with students. So
I think I have that skill set there. Anyway.
Yeah.
and by the way, on Matt, I'm sorry he's not here, so we can't introduce him to everyone, but he sits right out here where Mary Dalton used to sit. So if you haven't come by and introduced yourself and said hello, please do that. Really thrilled that he's on board. So, okay. And that were my question. Thank you for that. Appreciate all you do.
I don't have a question, but I would like for Harold to share his Gear Up experience as a student, if he doesn't mind. I really did put you on the spot. You didn't know I was going to ask you that.
You sure? I did not. Yeah, cool.
Good share.
I grew up in Central Kentucky, and I'm from a low income family. I have a twin sister, but we're the youngest of 8 kids, and I'm from a really rural, low income neighborhood area where there's not a lot of opportunity. So when Gear Up started back in 1998, Berea College, which is about 3 hours from here, wrote a Gear Up grant to serve one school district, and it happened to be my school district. So it was just like I was born at the right time, I guess, because they served my class, and got me excited about thinking about college and career. They helped me understand like what basically to pay attention to the adults in my life and try to see like, who do I want to be like? Who do I not want to be like? And helped me make goals related to all of that. They helped me understand my values and helped me understand who I was as a person and like what are some of the core tenets of my identity, those kinds of things. And I mean, it all came through like programming, right? So like classroom presentations, after school opportunities, field trips that included college visits, job shadow, and it's like everything that we're doing right now. And I was very enthusiastic about participating because I was very enthusiastic about not being a low-income adult. And I also had a peer group that was really into doing all the Gear Up stuff. So, what drew me to participating was really just having caring adults. It didn't matter that they weren't licensed and, that they weren't licensed school counselors or licensed teachers. They were just people that cared about kids and wanted to make a difference and had a natural talent of connecting with young people. And I mean, it was really formative. It was a really formative experience for me. I eventually went to Berea College and graduated in 2009. And pretty soon after, started working in college access and success myself, starting with a TRIO program. And that's all I've done professionally. That's it. I'm 35 years old, and I've just made college and career my life's work, and I love it. So I don't know. That's a little bit about me. Guachi, do you have another question I wasn't ready for?
No, but you did a great job on that one. I did want to do that, Harold, because I know your passion about college and career readiness and how important this work is to you. And I just encourage everybody on this Lunch and Learn to go to, which page is it that we have our stories on, JP?
I've asked Deborah. She's going to drop our YouTube link into the chat box. Every one of our staff member has recorded their college going story. So like Kwachi was saying, I encourage you guys all to go in and listen to each one of our staff member stories. They're amazing.
Yes. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question. This is Maya. How are the students identified? I may have missed it, but how do you identify those students that qualify for the program?
So the great thing about Gear Up is every single student that is in the cohort class that we are serving at our identified site is automatically a Gear Up student. So if they're in for a day and they leave the next day, which some of our students may do that, right? We have high mobility in our district. They're a student for that day. And if we provide them a service, they're our Gear Up student. And so any student that is at any one of the 7 sites we identified in our cohort of class of 2024, 2025 are automatically enrolled.
I'll take care of Hope's email.
Thank you, JP.
Did you say something, Catherine?
Sorry, I was talking to Mel.
Oh. Well, that is it for us. If you guys don't have any other questions, I think we're supposed to do a plug for the survey. So if you would please fill out the survey about this Lunch and Learn so that we will be able to give feedback to JP and the Gear Up staff. Before we end, I would love if every member of the Gear Up team would turn their cameras on if they can. I know that may be difficult. Some of you may actually be working in a school right now. But if you could just please turn your cameras on so everybody can see the awesome staff that works with Gear Up.
They are all amazing, folks.
They are. And this work is very important to every last one of them. And I'm very grateful for this team.
Ditto.
Dr. Randolph, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just sitting over here smiling. Sorry. Thank you all. So incredible to have this team as a part of our team, and really appreciate the thoughtful way you shared with us this morning. And we're all jealous that you can buy pizza and Chick-fil-A and gift cards and all the things. So I will say that's how we, when those requisitions come through, I'm always like, what? And then I'm like, oh, it's Gear Up. It's fine. So thank you all, and let us know how we can help. I think we're all so busy and moving ahead, but let us know how we can support you and the students that you serve. It's such important work. So thank you all. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.